Good evening, everyone. So I welcome all of you to the last talk of the day. Today we have with us Aashish. He is working in Palo Alto networks. He has a very good exposure and he has very good experience in various aspects of cyber security. So over to you, Aashish, for your talk.
Great, so thanks a lot. It's great being back here with my teachers and all the guys which I have here on my call. And it's great seeing people whom I know. I see Raghavendra sir, I see Prashant sir. Great coming back and seeing you here. I hope it helps. I hope everybody gets a good amount of understanding of what I talk here. Right. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can quickly scan this code. Rather than sharing a link, it would be great if you can scan this and can be redirected to my profile, right? Yeah, so today's topic which I'll talk about is protection against APT. Okay, so when I say APT, the full form for APT is advanced persistent threat. Okay, and I'll try to deep dive in what the APT is and how do we understand how does the APT work, right? So typically an APT is an advanced group. Okay, these are advanced hacking groups which will come across and they'll try to target big organizations, right? And big organizations, when I say big organizations, they include a lot of high level organizations where they can be working in different sectors. It can be financial sectors, it can be banking sectors, right? These are not like your typical SMB or your typical small businesses. These are highly coordinated attacks. And where we talk about nation states, where, for example, you must have recently read about Ukraine and Russia, and there has been a lot of cyber attacks happening from Russian end towards the Ukrainian end, where we had a lot of banks and a lot of government sectors and government organizations being hacked, right? So that's what the stage I'll try to set up here, and then I'll try to move ahead. Okay. In case you come across any questions, you come across any doubts, you want to ask me anything, you can put it in the chat. And if time permits, I'll try to also take up some questions if we can allow some people to unmute themselves and we can talk, right? Okay. So for some people, this can be an advanced topic. For some people, it can be a very simple topic, but it depends, right? And if you're not able to understand, I'll try to simplify it as simple as I can so that everybody across this session can understand. Okay, so I hope everybody must have got good amount of understanding from the previous two sessions which we had, and I'll give a huge shout out to Karan Mali and Puneet, who are my peers from the industry. They have tried to set up a very good understanding of what cybersecurity is and why it is very important for us, right? So I'll also try to bring in some points here. So first thing which we now need to understand is attacks are typically not as we saw it, let's say 5 years back or 2 years back, right? They have evolved a lot, and they have evolved in such a way that it is very tough for the defenders like me, like anybody who's working into the defense industry, where we are trying to protect various organizations, right? And it's become very tough. And the type of technology we need to build or we need to cater here has to be very advanced. And the technology has to understand all the different kinds of attacks which are happening, right? Not just one attack, two attack, or three attacks. We have to understand all the attacks which are happening. And I'll also bring in one point here where being a defender, we have to be 100% correct, right? We have to be 100% sure of what we are blocking and what we are detecting, and then we have to also prevent. Not only detect, but prevention is also the key to protect ourselves, right? And to add to this, let's say a threat actor or a hacker has to get into my organization, and if they want to get into my organization, they have to be 1% correct. And if they are 1% correct, and if they get that hole in my company to get into my organization, my defenses have to work, right? And if they don't work, then you know what happens, right? We have seen a lot of hacks which have happened in the past. Recently, we have also seen the Red Cross hack which happened, where the Red Cross was attacked. Recently, we also saw the Croatian carrier was hacked. Right? A lot of hacks are happening nowadays, and we have heard a term called as ransomware attacks, right? So ransomwares have evolved a lot. If I talk about last 2 to 3 years, the case where we saw about ransomware was that whenever a ransomware infection was happening to an industry, their files were getting encrypted, right? Once they got encrypted, the organizations, what they did was they took out their backups, which were taken by the company, and they used to restore from their backups, right? And that way, the ransomware gangs were not earning more, or they were not able to bring that fear in the companies that, okay, we are ransomware guys and you have to fear us. But nowadays, what we have seen is from last, say, 2 to 3 years, what we have seen is that now when we talk about attacks, the attacks have changed. And now when a ransomware gang tries to encrypt the data, they also publish it outside, right? So what I do is I enter a company, I first exfiltrate the data out, all the data. It can be your confidential files, it can be your HR data, it can be your financial data, it can be anything, right? Anything. When once I get into a company, I can get everything. So once I get that data, I take it outside and then I publish it on dark web, right? And once I publish it or I sell it, then I come back and I encrypt everything, right? So that way you can't deny the fact that you are hacked. So we have seen a lot of companies where they have denied, right? A lot of Indian companies also, for that matter. So they have denied that we are not hacked. But ultimately, when there is an extensive research done, or when there's a analysis of the attack is done, we get to know that, okay, these guys were attacked, right? So the things have changed a lot, and things are changing at a rapid pace, to which we have to cater ourselves, and we have to go at that pace so that we can protect us, right? So I hope that everybody understands the depth and the breadth of what we are talking about here, right? To add to the problem which we already had, now we have changed the mode we work, right? So we are working in a hybrid situation where some people are working from home, some people are working from office, and sometimes you're going to office, sometimes you're going and working at your home, right? So things have changed, and the data is constantly moving. It's not at one place where we say that, okay, all of the data is now stored in the data center, right? Gone are the days where we talked about the data being stored in the data center. Now what has happened is the data is moving with your laptop, with your endpoints, right? As rightly said by Puneet in the previous session which we had, that the endpoint is the data, is having the data, and as the endpoint moves, your data is also moving, right? So it is very important that I protect you, your data, the assets which you have, the digital assets which you have. It's very important that I protect that, right? And I have to constantly monitor you, I have to monitor your behavior. So a lot of things are there which are included in this topic, so I'll not push it ahead, and I'll try to move with the topic which we have, right? So I hope everybody understands the gist of what I'm trying to say here. Moving ahead, let's try to understand a typical attack kill chain, right? So what is a kill chain? Kill chain is the way a threat actor would try to attack you, and further they'll try to get into your organization, they'll try to get into your assets, and once they get into your assets, they'll try to move, right? They'll do a lateral movement. So lateral movement, it means that I'll try to first get hold of some computers in your organization, and then I'll try to move ahead so that I get to the crown jewel of your company. That's your servers, right? It can be an AD server, which is used for authentication. It can be your HRMS server, which has all the data records and all of the company employees record, and it is very crucial for me to get that. So that is how attacks happen, right? So we'll try to understand the kill chain and then try to move ahead with this example. So typically an attack happens, usually either you get an document, you get an email, you get a SMS message, right? So once you get the document, you click on the document. So document comes most of the time through email. So email is a very common vector which is used nowadays for attacks. Not nowadays, it has been there, and a good amount of awareness is not able to help that, right? Even if I make you aware, somehow the other way, the threat actors will find a way to get you into that system of clicking the links. And once you click the link, the other things happen, right? So you have the document, and the document has, let's say, one link or two link or three links. It depends. So let's say that there is 3 links in the document, or let's say that you have directly got the link rather than the document, directly receive the link on email. You click on the link, right? Once you click on the link, a payload is downloaded or executable is downloaded on your machine, and it is totally transparent to you, right? Sometimes it is transparent, sometimes it looks like a legitimate software. Let's say that it looks like it's a Zoom installer, but it is not, right? We have seen recent attacks where Zoom installers were used to attack. So it was not a legitimate Zoom installer. It was a fake Zoom installer, which was there available on Google. Once you did the Google search through SEO, what did the hackers do was through SEO, they got their websites on the top. And once you clicked on it, the Zoom installer would install. and you might think that, okay, it's a Zoom install, but it is not. And then everything happens, and you know what happens next, right? So an executable comes in. Then once the executable is brought into your system, with what the hackers do is they exploit, right? They try to find vulnerabilities, right? They try to find vulnerabilities in your softwares which you have. For example, Adobe Reader, or it can be your Internet Explorer, it can be Zoom, or it can be Chrome, anything, right? So there is no silver bullet of creating a secure software, right? Every software will have some of the other vulnerability. It is up to either the threat actor or the OEM who is building the software, or the defenders like us, to patch that vulnerability, right? So sometimes what happens is, sometimes it's the defender who detect the vulnerability and we tell the OEM that, okay, please patch it, or the OEM itself gets to know that there's a vulnerability, they patch it, or the threat actors use that vulnerability to further exploit and further get into the organizations. So that way we get to know that, okay, this vulnerability is being used in the wild and we need to patch it up, right? So I'll also take a very good example where we saw a huge attack last year. Some of you may know about the SolarWinds supply chain attack, and we'll talk about it in depth. So I hope that everybody should understand it. And it's a very good example of how attacks happen, and how things have gone wrong. And even the best in class security solutions were not able to detect it, right? And it also impacted a lot of security companies, lot of government US organizations, and lot more was there, right? So once the exploitation and installation is done, I act on the objective, right? So I can have a lot of objectives. I can have an objective of either just defaming your company, where I tell that, okay, see, I hacked your company and it's out to everybody, and your share prices fall down. That's one way of defaming. Other way is where I further, once I do the exploitation and I install the installer in your machine, I'll try to move around. That's called lateral movement. Okay, I'll just take this laser pointer here so that it's easy. So I'll do a lateral movement where I move in your organization and try to find other important documents and files and servers and machines, right? So this is also a place where I also detect whether you have backups. And if you have backups, I'll also go out and encrypt that backup so that you're not able to restore. Okay. So this is lateral movement where I move around. And once I do it, all the data which I have got from here, I'll try to send it outside your organization to my server. Okay, the hacker server. So let's assume that I'm a hacker right now, and I'll try to get all of the details from here and I'll send it out to the server. And this communication which happens here is called as command and control. Okay, where I control the installer which I have, all of the data which I'm sending out from here, and I'm getting it at my end. Okay. The best thing to this is that all the communication which happens between the C2 server and this server, which is encrypted, or which is from where I'm trying to get the data, is over SSL communication, right? Gone are the days where we said that every website needs to have an HTTPS, right? It doesn't matter. Even if it is having HTTPS, it doesn't mean that it is safe. Okay, that's a very important point which everybody should understand, because in most of the awareness training which I've seen, that we only talk about the site being HTTPS. Okay, that gone are the days. So we need to know more about where we are logging in, or where we are trying to browse ourselves, right? Go onto the internet. So what we'll do here, what the threat actor would do here is they will do a communication with their server over SSL, and SSL, as we all know, is encrypted, right? And if you don't have the right tool and technology to detect your data in that encrypted channel, you will never be able to protect yourselves, right? Because this is encrypted. If you're not decrypting the data which is going outside, you will never able to see what is happening and what is not happening. You will only depend for a small or a very small aspect on the endpoint security, right? Endpoint security is your typical AV, but now as we have advanced in cybersecurity, we also have new technologies which are known as EDRs. Right? Puneet rightly said, or also called out about this topic, EDR, which is known as endpoint detection and response. On top of it, nowadays we are talking about XDRs. Okay, so that would be something to add to it. So this SSL communication can only be detected if we are decrypting the traffic, right? And we also need to have an endpoint security solution here, which can also see what kind of changes are happening on my server or on my endpoint, right? So there is a huge caveat to this, that we need to have a lot of things in place to stop this attack, right? And if we are able to break this chain anywhere, we can protect ourselves, right? So we need to have the right tool, right technology, plus the right amount of people who are skilled. And there's a huge skill shortage in the industry nowadays. So we need people who are skilled, who are passionate enough to work in the security industry, right? So that is something which I would recommend to all the guys who plan to get into cybersecurity. So I hope this skill chain is understood, right? And if you have any doubts, you can put those doubts in the chat. Okay, moving ahead. This is what I was talking about. So you get a phishing link or an email. You click on that link or someone shares it with you. You download the document. Let's assume that here we have a Word document which is being downloaded. And then it has macro that runs a code. Further, it exploits and it runs a partial script. And that script further downloads a secondary payload. One more thing to add here is that the attacks which we see nowadays don't involve big files. Okay, we don't see 10 MB file or 2 MB file or 100 MB files. We see KB files, or the files are very, very small. They're in KB. The reason for it to be in KB is because when you download a very small amount of file, it is not being detected by most of the security tools. Okay, so I download let's say a 1 KB file, then I'll add on to it. I'll download an extra payload of 1 KB, then I'll download extra payload of 1 KB, and I'll download 3 KBs, and I'll then integrate all of them together in my machine itself. Right? That is done by a typical hacker. So they'll try to integrate all of those payloads together in your machine, and then the encryption and all of the other exploitation process begin. And this is a quick overview of what kind of attacks we are seeing, right? Colonial Pipeline was called out. This was also one of the major highlight in US newses. I'll also talk about one more big highlight which has happened all the last year. 2020 was full of those news. So we'll talk about that, right? Toshiba was also infected. A lot of rail companies were infected. Fortune 500 companies were infected. So this is a understanding which everybody needs to get, that cybersecurity is very, very big industry, and every company nowadays is investing huge amount of money, because in case one or the other time I'm able to get into your company and I'm able to get that data out of that company, your reputation, your links with and tie-ups with other organizations and government sectors is vain, right? So no use. This is how the growth we see, right? There has been a huge growth you see from 1998 to the present. So I'll be talking about this present here, right? So what kind of attacks we see? We'll talk about present. What do we see? We see cyber warfare. You must have seen. I gave an example of Ukraine and Russia, right? US and China, US and Russia, right? A lot of attacks are happening. Recently, a bill was passed by Biden government where they have brought in a lot of reforms in terms of cybersecurity, right? A typical department has been set up to protect USA from all the different kinds of cyber attacks which are happening. Then we see fileless attacks, where you won't see any file being downloaded on your machine, but still the attack is successful, right? Then we have automated and AI attacks. Then cloud attacks are also huge. We can talk about a lot of companies in India itself. There has been an attack on Big Basket. There has been an attack on Dunzo, right? A lot of companies. So we'll typically talk about this. When I say APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, they come under this bracket, right? They come under this umbrella, where we have seen some of the threats. For example, known threats. Known threats are those threats which are known by the whole security community. It is known by Palo Alto, it is known by Cisco, it is known by McAfee, it is known by IBM. Everybody knows about it. So we can detect and block. Then comes the evasive malware, where the malware is trying to evade the detections, right? So typically we talk about Trojans here, which look like they are good softwares, but they are not. Then we talk about 0 days. So 0 days are those kinds of vulnerabilities or software bugs where the OEM or the company who is linked with that software got 0 days to patch it, right? So you haven't got the time to patch it, or you didn't even know about the vulnerability in that software, and the vulnerability is now being used by the threat actors. Right? This was seen in an attack where we talk about Log4j, right? Log4j is a very recent attack which was happening. Then we also talk about Microsoft Exchange servers which were used. So a lot of attacks. Then we have fileless attacks. So as you move ahead through this chain here, if you come across this part, you'll see that as attacks are moving and they are growing and they are evolving, we see that they are becoming more and more sophisticated and more damaging, right? This low and slow can take up to from 1 month to 6 months, and it can also take up to 1 year, right? I being a threat actor can now come into your organization. I can come in your organization, let's say in January, and I'll infect your organization in December, right? I can be sitting there for 1 year and still you may not know, your security tools may not know. So that is what we are talking about here. Okay, now here comes the main understanding which we need to know and we need to understand. So let's see. So here I'll be talking about a company called SolarWinds, right? SolarWinds is a software company which creates a lot of network monitoring tools, a lot of tools which are used to monitor a network, monitor a server, monitor a switch, monitor a router, like a lot of things, okay? And by the way the company works or the products which the company use, you can understand that that SolarWinds, the products from SolarWinds is used by major organizations, okay? Because everybody needs to monitor their network, need to monitor their tools, need to monitor their server, need to know what is the bandwidth consumption, need to also take remote of their servers, right? A lot of things. So they have a huge bucket list of various softwares which SolarWinds provides, right? So we have seen that there. Now, the threat actor which attacked SolarWinds has a name called as APT 29. Okay, they also have other names which are given by different security organizations. One of the name is Nobelium or Dark Halo, Cozy Bear, like lot of names are given to it. But for simplicity of this session, we'll try to keep it simple and say APT 29. So every cyber espionage group or every group which is large and which is sponsored by a state, let's say it is sponsored by Russia, it is sponsored by India, it is sponsored by USA, right? Is called as a APT group. Okay, and the group which we saw here was funded and supported by Russian foreign intelligence. So you can understand the depth, right? The kind of attack we are going to talk about here. So this APT 29 was funded by Russian organization, and what they did was they tried or they were successful in getting into SolarWinds supply chain. So what do you mean by supply chain, right? So if I say, for example, if you have to, let's take an example of PepsiCo, right? PepsiCo is manufacturing their Lay's, right? Potato chips. So while they're manufacturing potato chips, let's say that I'm able to enter their supply chain of manufacturing the potato chips, right? And I'm able to break it, and I'm able to put something of mine, right? For example, I am able to put a chip in every packet which can trace you. For example, if you buy a Lay's packet and you keep it with yourself, I can trace you because I have inserted a chip in that packet and nobody knows about it, right? Nobody from the PepsiCo team, nobody from the distributor team, nobody knows about it. So it can be very dangerous, right? So that is what we are seeing here. So this is what happened in case of SolarWinds. So SolarWinds is a company which is into development of software, updating the software, and then pushing it to their end users. So end users vary from Fortune 500 companies to security companies to government companies to government organizations, like a lot of companies. Okay. So what happened? I'll try to pull out one more slide so that you understand you get a good understanding what kind of attack we saw. Okay, so I'll start from 2019. Okay, so let's try to do a quick understanding of how the attack happened, what all things did we see, and how we could have protected it, right? So the protection part, we'll talk about it next after I complete this slide. But typically now we'll try to understand how the attack happened. If you want to know more on and you want to do a good read of how the attack and what all things happened in the attack, you can scan this code. You'll go to Palo Altos Unit 42 research team's executive summary and you can read it out there. Okay, great. So this image is a very good image which is provided by Microsoft. You can also look out for it on Google and you can find it. Okay, so to start with, the attack typically started in 2019. Okay, and when was it detected? It was detected in December, and that was December of 2021, right? Sorry, December 2022. Sorry. Okay, so it must have been, it is around, say, more than 1 year since the attack happened and nobody was able to detect it, right? For 1 year or 1 whole year, they were in SolarWinds supply chain. Nobody was able to detect it, right? And the detection was also, the detection which happened was also by chance. Okay, if that chance hadn't come, then nobody could have detected it also. So that is what we saw, right? So let's see. So in 2019, the APT 29 group, what they did was they started the SolarWinds attack by first injecting a small amount of code into the supply chain, okay, into the process where the software development was happening. Okay, they injected a small code which was not malicious. Point should be noted here that it was not malicious. It was just a test code, and the test code was injected just to check whether the SolarWinds security team is able to detect that change or not. Okay, that's smart, right? That is very smart of them of doing this. So once they injected the test code, they waited, right? From September 2019 to November, they waited, right? And they stopped. Once they got to know that there was no detection and their access was not removed and there was no detection from the security team, they stopped, right? They were like, okay, great. Now it's good time to go ahead. Then they compiled their code. I'll also add one point here that if we refer to one of the statements from the Microsoft team or the Microsoft security head, what he said was that there must have been more than 1,000 people working on the hack. Okay, there have been more than 1,000 people, because this is not a typical hack which happens every day. This is a very, very sophisticated attack. Okay, then once the code was tested and it was found to be good, that okay, no detection is there, they then started by compiling and deploying the backdoor. What is a backdoor? So backdoor is a program or a malware which gives you access even if all the things are removed. So it's like a backdoor, right? For example, you close the main door, but if you still forget to close the window, I know that okay, there's a window through which I can get in, right? So that's a backdoor. So backdoor was pushed into the code, right? Into the code where the compilation or of the development of the software was happening, right? So once this compiled code was deployed, then what happens here is the distribution started. So what is this distribution? As everybody knows that every some of the while, what will happen is, for example, there's a Microsoft update, right? So what will Microsoft do? It will push an update to everybody who is connected to its servers, right? So every day or every week we get an update from Microsoft, right? For Windows 10 or Windows 11. Similarly, what SolarWinds did was they pushed it like the typical update, right? Every company does it, because there has to be any update, there has to be a bug fix, or there has to be any patch that has to be pushed, right? So what happened here? They pushed the update, but SolarWinds team never knew that the update had the backdoor, right? So that's dangerous now. So once the backdoor was pushed, it went to everyone who was using SolarWinds, and it was like an update to them. And once the SolarWinds update was installed by the companies, everybody was now accessible to the hacker, right? So this happened. So once this happened, they then tried to create a target profile. So what is a target profile? Say, for example, an update is pushed to say 1,000 users, right? So what the hacker did typically here, that they didn't plan to attack all the 1,000 users, but they created a profile and understood that who are some of the major companies and players whom we can attack, and we can get good amount of understanding from them. Okay, so they attacked it, and finally they got hands-on access to the keyboard. So that's more dangerous now, right? They got hands-on access to the keyboard, and they could operate, they could access, they could see what is happening in the company. And it's very, very dangerous. If you go out and search more on the web, you'll find great videos and great insights on what all more things happened here, right? So this is the environment, and we'll see a DLL which was compromised, right? A compromised DLL is here. It is pushed, a backdoor is sent out, it is installed, right? And then the SolarWinds hack started. Typically the hack started here. Still nobody was able to detect it. That's more dangerous, right? So once the backdoor was installed, and it was installed as an update, nobody knew about it. It then made a C2 call. What is the C2 call? I just showed it to you here. The C2 call. I'll come back here. C2 call, right? Command and control. So once we have to act on the objective of reverse connection is created to the hacker's machine or to the hacker server, and from there they can control and they can see what is happening, and further they can exfiltrate the data out and then can plan on encrypting everything, right? So a C2 server was set up. Obviously the C2 server was set up by the attacker, and to a surprise for everyone in the security industry, the domains which were used by the attacker were not new. Okay, they were very, very old. And these, usually what happens in the security industry, if we find any new domain, we typically try to stop it or block it initially, because any newly registered domains can be a part of a cyber espionage, or it can be a part of an hack, right? So typically most of the company will try to block the newly registered domain. But in this case, the attackers were using very old domains which they had registered long back, right? This is more to add to the complexity which we have already seen, right? So this C2 communication is happening. Then they installed something called as Cobalt Strike. So this is also a beaconing tool which has a lot of capabilities and add-ons to it, which can be used to devastate a company and to destroy a company. This is usually used by a red team. Okay, this was initially created to be used by red team who do vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, right? But more than the VAPT guys, this is now being used by the threat actors. Okay, and finally, once this control was done, and you can see that there was a hands-on and access to the threat actor to have it on the keyboard, and they could do anything and everything, right? And what were some of the companies which were infected in this or were part of this hack? Was Intel was there, Microsoft itself was there, and a lot more companies. There was FireEye. FireEye is also a security company, and a lot more. Intel and Microsoft, these are big companies, right? And a lot more, like the Department of Justice was part of this hack, and a lot of other US government companies. And this was a very big eye-opener for the entire security industry, that even if we have advanced, even if we have brought in some great tools and technologies, we are still not able to detect it and block it, right? So this is something where the security is evolving and it has to evolve. I hope this is understood by everyone. Any doubts anybody has? So I'll just wait for 1 minute here. If anybody wants to add to this or wants to ask me something regarding this, I'm open for a quick question. Is this understood? Am I going too fast, or is it understood by everyone? If I can have some yes, no's in the chat so that I know that, okay, nobody's sleeping and everybody is understanding what I say.
Yeah, it's clear. You can continue, Aashish.
Great.
Participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Or else you can put the questions in the chat box. We will take it at the end.
Okay, great. So yes, I have some yeses. Great. So we'll move ahead. Okay, now let's try to get into the understanding of how we can protect it, right? Till now we have seen all of the challenges and we are like, okay, this is bad, this is also bad, this is also bad, this is also bad. Okay, now what is the solution? What solution do you give me? So me being from Palo Alto Networks, I will try to bring in one of the major and one of the best technology we use here to protect our customers. Our customers range from big to small and very high, very, very big customers. It can be Fortune 500, it can be Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 50 companies, right? So a lot of companies, and we work with them. So typically my job role involves working with these companies, understanding their environment, understanding what the requirement is, understanding what kind of tools and technologies would fit in, and then architect and provide a solution which can help them, right? So from a customer's perspective, security is very important nowadays, right? Everybody fears it and they want the best in class, best in breed technology which can protect them. So to protect them, we need to have a technology which is best in class also, right? So I'll talk about that technology which we use with our customers, called as Wildfire. We'll see that next. So this is the challenge which we have seen, right? So this is a quick slide to summarize all of the challenges which we have seen. So the attacks are very, very, very fast, and the pace at which they have evolved is huge, right? They're trying to bypass all of the legacy analysis tools. your typical antivirus won't work here, right? Your typical antivirus which we used, let's say 5 years ago, won't work at all. Your typical firewalls won't work here. Your typical cloud security solutions won't work here, right? You need something advanced which can help, and that has to be fast, that has to be cloud delivered, and that has to bring in all of the ML and the AI technologies, right? No security technology or tool can work without AI and ML. Right? Nowadays, that is what is required. Why? Because threat actors have now evolved, and now they have brought in automation. Right? So we have to evolve. And there has been an increase in the attack surface. So when I say attack surface, I mean the data footprint which we have brought in now. Right, my data is not into a typical data center where I can stack up all of the security solutions. That's not the case nowadays, right? So I have my laptop, I also have a desktop, I also go to my work, I also work from home, I also work when I'm traveling. So my data is moving. So when the data is moving, it is not your typical uh, office security which you can bring in here, right? You don't have firewall, you can't carry a firewall with yourself and move around, right? But you need that kind of security, but you can't do it. So that's also a very big challenge. So that is what we call about attack surface. Adding to this, we have new technologies like blockchain, right, which is trying to solve this. We also have 5G, which is now adding to the attack surface. We also have IoT, your Alexas, your Google, right, your Google Home, everything is adding to it. Your printers, we have also seen attacks where printers were used, right? And to your surprise, we have also seen attacks where coffee machines were used to bring in ransomware. So that's terrifying, right? A Tesla car can also be used to infect you. So you need to understand the depth of what kind of security we need to bring in the kinds of attacks which we are seeing. Okay, fine. So when we go beyond the traditional approach, what kind of approach do we need to follow, right? So we need to detect and prevent everything, not just things which are known to you, not just things which are known by everybody. If it is known by everybody, it is also there is a very huge chance that it is also known by the threat actor, right? That is not the case, or that is not a good security solution which you can bring on to, or bring into your company, or bring into your organization, right? So it needs to detect, not only detect, plus prevent, right? So when I talk about detection and prevention, this is some of the main technologies we need to talk about here, right? Once you detect and prevent, you also need to detect and prevent not just known, but also unknown threats which are not known by anyone in the world, right? Here is the place where I talk about 0 days, right? You got 0 days to patch any vulnerability. So that's known as unknown threats. Then you need to stay ahead of the techniques and technologies which we are seeing. For example, I showed you a typical kill chain where a document is coming in, you click on the link, right? A lot of stuffs are happening there. So you need to be ahead of those kinds of attacks. Then you need to bring in automation. Right. So this is what we do at Palo Alto. What do? We bring in all of the unknown samples which we know, right? All of the unknowns. It can be either from a branch office, it can be from a headquarter, it can be from a data center, it can be from your mobile phone, it can be from your public cloud, it can be your AWS, GCP, Azure, Alibaba, anything, right? IoT and endpoint. IoT can be your SCADA systems. It can be your IoT systems, right? A lot of things there. And then it is being brought to my cloud, right? And my cloud delivers a lot of solutions where we talk about IDS, IPS, then we have IoT security. And typically for 0 day or APT security, I'll talk about wildfire today. Okay, there are a lot more things to it. And on top of these cloud subscriptions, we have our threat research team called as Unit 42. Okay. Now let's talk about detecting and preventing the unknown. What do we do? So this is my wildfire cloud. Okay, so what happens in case of wildfire? We get anything which is unknown to the world, either from our network. So it can be your branch office, it can be your headquarter, it can be your data center, anything. It can be your endpoints also, your laptops, your mobile phones, your desktops, your Chromebooks, anything, right? Chromebooks also come under endpoint. So yeah, anything which is generating or getting the data is called as endpoint. Okay. Then it can be your cloud. And it can also be other partner ecosystems with whom we can integrate ourselves, and we can try to fetch more data, because security is something where we need to connect with other vendors and other guys also, so that we are getting the holistic approach, or we are able to see everything which is happening in the environment, right? Just seeing a part of the attack will not help me. because security is all about visibility. If I'm able to see what is happening, then only I can protect you, right? If I can't see what is happening, then I can't protect you, right? So that is what we see here. Then in case I get any malicious file or any file which is suspicious or unknown, I'll be sending those files to my cloud. That is my wildfire cloud, right? So once the cloud gets these files, it will do analysis of it. So what kind of analysis do? We'll do a static analysis. That's a typical code analysis where we'll see the part of a code where we know that, okay, a typical ransomware file will have, or a ransomware infected document will have these specific code, right? And we'll try to check it and compare it to other files which we have already seen. We'll also do a analysis of what code is written. That is a typical static analysis which anybody can do, right? Then we also talk about dynamic analysis. What is dynamic analysis? We try to run these files in virtual machines plus also in bare metal. What is bare metal? Bare metal is your typical hardware server where you run the file and you see what is the behavior of the file. Now a question may come to a lot of people here is, if you're doing static analysis, what is the reason for doing dynamic analysis, right? This is where we also talk about the evolution of the threats which we have seen evolving through time, right? Now the threats are able to detect if they are into an analysis environment, right? They can detect it and they can stop themselves from running, and they'll be only running in a file where they get to know that, okay, this is a real user machine, this is not a virtual environment, right? So they get to know that, okay, this is a virtual environment. They'll see VM tools, they will see the temperature, they'll get to know that, okay, this is virtual machine, and I'll not run here. So that way security fails, right? And we don't want security to fail. So what we do, not only do we do dynamic analysis on my virtual machine, we also do a dynamic analysis on my servers. So that way, if I run those files on a server, they won't be able to evade myself or evade themselves, or they'll not be able to hide themselves from the way they will infect a real user machine. Once they are ran in this environment, we'll see what kind of communications they're trying to do. Either they are trying to do a DNS resolution, they are trying to communicate with their C2 servers. They may also be changing registry, right? They'll do quite a lot of registry changes in the Windows machines. Usually we'll see a lot of registry changes which happen, right? Plus they will also try to spawn new processes. They'll use inbuilt processes like Notepad.exe, or they'll use SVC host, right? Lot of Windows processes are now being used. Plus we have also seen Windows Defender processes being used, or Windows DLLs being used to infect machines, right? That's also scary, but yes, that's the truth. So once we see how the file is behaving and how the file is trying to communicate, then we can understand. Okay, plus we'll see also have recursive analysis. This is something which I don't want to cover here, it will go beyond the scope, but yes, right, network profiling I've told you, and this is dynamic unpacking, where we unpack the file and we see how it is behaving. So once I do all of these analysis here, I get to know that whether it is a good file, or is it a bad file, or is it something else, right? And that verdict is sent across the entire infrastructure. It can be either a network, it can be either an endpoint, cloud, or anything else, right? That way, everything or anything which is connected to wildfire gets protected. And that is in zero time, right? It doesn't take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or say 1 hour for analysis. It is very fast. Why is it fast? Because it is over cloud, right? And everybody knows the elasticity and the other aspects of what cloud is, right? Okay, moving ahead, I'll just skip this slide. Yeah. So we also bring in the capability of inline machine learning. So what is this? Just to bring in some more aspect to the wildfire cloud, which I've already told you. What you'll see here is, this is my firewall, right? Every company needs a firewall nowadays. It can be either on-prem, it can be either cloud or anywhere else, right? So a firewall is needed by everyone. So firewall comes into my network as component. So every network will have a firewall, or they can have my endpoint security solution. They can also have my cloud security solution. So anywhere. So everything, all the components are connected to the wildfire cloud. So once an unknown file is traversing through my firewall, without me sending it to wildfire, I can detect and block it on that spot, right? Rather than me seeing that, okay, this file is unknown, I send it to my cloud. The cloud will do an analysis, and then it will give me a verdict that, okay, this is bad or good. And then based on that, I'll do a decision. Rather than that, what I'll do is I'll have my ML models pushed onto this box itself. Okay. So my wildfire, what it'll do is it will push the ML model, or my threat intelligence team will push a model to my firewall, so that as soon as a file is seen, it is being blocked. Okay, so it can block phishing attempts, it can block JavaScript exploits or JavaScript injection, where we see web applications being infected by these kinds of attacks, where code is pushed and the code is further injected into a browser, and then all of the vulnerability in a browser is exploited, and your time is over, right? We can also detect PowerShell scripts and portable executables at the time when it is being traversed to the fire, right? As soon as the firewall uses its machine learning model, what it will do is it will compare the files with its model, and once it is doing a comparison, it can say that, okay, this is a malicious file, I can block it, right? So that is where we talk about zero-day prevention or zero-day detection and prevention. So once this comes in, we block it. Adding to this, we'll also send this file to the Wildfire cloud. What is the reason for sending it to Wildfire? The reason is that I need to update my models, right? As the threats are evolving, I need to also update my model. So Wildfire will do an analysis. It will do a second analysis just to check whether there is no false positive to add it to it. So it will do an analysis. Once the analysis is done, it will give a verdict. Okay. Plus, if needed, it will also update, or it will push an update for an ML model on my file. And further, the protection happens, right? So I'll check for unknown files, and then it is distributed across anyone and everyone who is connected to my Wildfire cloud, right? So this is how we do it here at Palo Alto. So techniques which I've already told you. So network profiling. So if you see why network profiling, there can be some questions adding to this, that why do you do network profiling? Why do we do network profiling is that you must be knowing that Twitter was used as a C2 server, or for C2 communication, Twitter was used. I can also use Google Hangouts to do a C2 communication. And as everybody knows that nobody would suspect Twitter of being used as a C2 server, or Google Hangout being used as a C2 server, right? So that's very important for doing a network profiling. Plus, this rat. Okay, rat. This is remote access Trojan. Sorry, this is remote access Trojan. This is a family. This is also a family of malware. This involves other threats, right? So in case of Gravity Rat, what did we see? We saw that the malware was trying to check the temperature of the hypervisor where the machine was running. Okay, and if it was able to detect the temperature of the sandbox or the area where it was running, it would not run as expected. It would stop running. Like, that's the way the code is written in a typical malware, that it is able to detect and stop itself. And if when required, if it is run on a real machine, it will run there. Plus, why bare metal analysis? Because sometimes the malware itself will try to see if it is a virtual machine, it will crash it down so that you will not be able to run it. Right? So these are things which we have seen, and that is one reason why evolution and innovation has to happen hand in hand. These are some samples which are analyzed by the Wildfire cloud every day, and you can see it from 2011. 2011 was the inception of Wildfire cloud, and since then we have been seeing a lot of unique samples, lot of unique artifacts, right? Artifacts include a lot of things. So artifact can be a IP address, it can be a host name, it can be a file hash, right? So a lot of things can happen there. So once I've told you everything about how an attack happens, the next question is, how do we prevent it? So prevention, I've told you, through the Wildfire cloud, where we are using these technologies to prevent our customers and all the people who are related to getting protection from Palo Alto using the Wildfire. Let's see it now, right? So we can do a file blocking. As soon as I detect a macro or a code inside the file, I can block it. And we can use URL filtering capabilities where we can block, and we can also detect further issues in that URL using the Wildfire I just told you. Then, adding to the execution and the exploitation steps, what we can do is we can use our endpoint security solution called as Cortex XDR. You must have heard of the term XDR recently. Yeah, right. So our endpoint security tool is called as Cortex XDR. Adding to this, we can also bring in our wildfire, because I've already told you, right? We can connect it with our end network. It can be, it can ingest data from cloud. It can ingest data from endpoints and a lot more things, right? Lot more areas where it can ingest data from. Plus, we can bring all of these things together, and then we can finally break the chain where the attack really happens, that is trying to encrypt anything on my server or my endpoint, right? So this is what we can do. Just to give you a quick look into what will Cortex XDR work like, or what it will do once it detects something fishy or something malicious on your endpoint. So let's see that also. It's a good animation which I like. So I'll just bring it out here. Right. What do you see? Let's assume that you have my Cortex XDR agent, or I have it in my machine, let's say. So as soon as the file is being downloaded by Chrome exe, so everybody knows that typically you'll go onto your browser and you'll try to download a file. So we know that, okay, the file is being downloaded from Chrome exe. So that is considered as a root cause, because that's the root cause from where you're trying to download, right? Then as soon as you download or click on that URL, which is in the phishing link, that further spawns a exe file. That's your 7-zip exe, right? It downloads a 7-zip file. Further, this 7-zip file will run cmd, that's your command prompt, right? And it will try to run a pdf.bat file in zip. So what is this pdf.bat? You can, by seeing itself, you can tell that this is double extension. What do you mean by double extension? It is not your typical PDF, right? But it looks like it is a PDF, but it is a bat file, right? Okay, I have a good question here. I'll just take that also out, right? So this CMD will further run, and it will bring out a PowerShell script, which will further run and will then execute a script. And then this execution, or this script, will further do a C2 communication, and the chain continues. So I've already told you about C2 communication. So from there, you can bring out the picture on what will happen to this company, right? But in this case, the company gets prevented. Why? Because I can give you a full understanding of the context, because I've heard to Puneet's talk where he was talking about context, and we need to have a full context of how the attack is happening, right? So to bring the context, if I combine my endpoint security agent with wildfire, I can give you the entire understanding of how the attack is happening, what is happening in the attack, at which stage is the attack currently, and how you can protect it, right? You can either detect it if you need. You can also detect plus prevent it, right? And you can get more information out of what is happening, how the communication is happening, how you can protect it. You can do a lot of research, and you can do a lot of threat hunting, what we call it threat hunting. You can do a lot of threat hunting there, and you can find artifacts, and you can further enhance your company's security if needed. Okay, so I have a good question here from, okay, CPH1861. Okay, that's a great name. So the question is, how's privacy being dealt as you are collecting company artifacts, right? So when I talk about collecting information, we are not collecting the whole file, we are collecting the metadata. Okay, for example, if I have to collect a photo, rather than collecting the photo, I'll collect the metadata. What is the metadata of a photo? It is the name of the photo, it is the location where it was clicked, right? Plus, adding to this, we also have privacy regulations. For example, HIPAA compliance is there, SOC 2 compliance is there, right? PCI DSS compliance is there, ISO compliances are there. So any company who is willing to push the files to the wildfire public cloud, they can do that. If they want to see those data sheets, you can find it out on the internet. And if the company is like, okay, you are HIPAA compliant, you're SOC compliant, you're good to go. But if the company is still not in a position to forward it to the wildfire cloud, we can also bring in our appliance. That's a private appliance or a hardware which you can keep in your company, and that hardware itself will do the analysis. And if needed, it will then, if needed for specific metadata only, it will send it out to the cloud. Otherwise, it will do all the analysis in-house. So that way, you can be happy that, okay, no files are being sent. Right? I hope that answers your question. Okay, great. Yes, great question adding to this, Vijayan. Thanks a lot for the question. So the next slide, I hope this is all about what we do. Okay, so we have a platform. So our platform connects to everything, and we bring in all of the data from everywhere, and we can protect it. What are some recommendations which I would like to make to everyone who is here? Right, you can't think of getting protected from APT, but you can think of being protected over the internet, right, by following very simple steps which you can do in your daily life. It's very simple, and you can do it, right? So here are some questions, some recommendations which I'd like to make. First is using a password manager. Now two questions come here. What if the password manager itself is hacked? Right, that's one question. The other question is, which password manager should I use? Everybody knows that we have to make complex passwords. Everybody knows that the password has to be in such a way that it is not easily broken. My brute force attack cannot happen, or my brute force should not be able to break it. So everybody knows about it. I won't go there, right? So you can either use password managers, you can use offline password managers like KeePass. Okay, I'm not here to advocate KeePass, but yeah, I'm just recommending. If you want to check it out, you can check it out online, and you can get more reviews about it. There is also online password managers like LastPass, and there are a lot more which you can use. You can do your own research and you can understand. But other than that, you can also use something called as passwordless authentication. This is a very good announcement which we have seen in the recent past, and it was first brought in by Microsoft. Recently, it was introduced, or it was recently pushed to everybody from Microsoft, that now it will not be required by you to put in your passwords. Right? What you can do is you can directly log in, and a OTP or a push notification will be sent to you on your app, and you can log in from there. No need for you to remember and put in the password. So this is also one good thing which you can see. Okay, let's say that you are not able to make good passwords. You're not able to remember the password. You're not able to, for example, you're using the same password. For example, you're using your date of birth everywhere. Right now, what should I do? I can't change my passwords now because I have included my date of birth everywhere. Even for UPI pin, I use my date of birth. Right. So then what should I do? So in that case, you can use MF or 2F. So MFA is multi-factor authentication, where it is more than 2 steps, and 2FA is two-factor authentication. So you'll find it everywhere. You'll find it on Facebook. If you want to log into your Facebook, you'll receive an OTP, then only you'll be able to log in. You'll find it on Instagram, you'll find it on LinkedIn, you'll find it everywhere now, right? And if you find a portal or a website which is not providing you 2FA and MFA, you should be you should think about it. Okay, you should think that, okay, if these guys are not providing you 2FA and MFA, you should either like move. You should not directly you should not create your logins and passwords there, or you should find an alternative to that website, right? Because it's not good. Nowadays, everybody should provide you with 2FA and MFA. But still, if you want to, yeah, you can. Then try to keep the password strong. Then don't reuse your passwords. That's known. Right, so stop using reusing your password. So passwordless, I have one question here. So passwordless, see, in passwordless, there is no need for you to remember the password or put in the password. Okay, it's very simple. You go into any website, for example, Microsoft login you want to do, you can try it on yourself also. Create your Outlook account, okay, and put in your credentials, everything you do. For the first time, it will ask you for the password. The second time, you can set up passwordless authentication. In that case, you need to download their authenticator app. That's Microsoft Authenticator. You download it, and then you put in your email ID, and you'll get an OTP, right? So what is the difference between 2FA and passwordless? Right. So 2FA is where you need to first put in your password. That's the first factor. Second factor is you put in the OTP, right? And in case of MFA, it may also involve you to provide your biometric, for example, fingerprint, face ID. Right? That's 2FA and MFA. But what about passwordless? In passwordless, you directly put your email ID, you get a push notification on your mobile phone, and you're logged in, right? So that's passwordless. There is no need for you to provide the password. Got it? Great. Okay. Then stop reusing your passwords. Please don't do it. Right? How secured? Kirtana, if you can put some light onto the question on how secured. Because it looks like it's a add-on to the previous question itself. Is it? Okay, I'll see that. Yep. Then don't click on any links. Please don't. I would never recommend anyone to click on the links. What you should do is, if you have received, let's say, an email from ICICI Bank, no, don't click on it. Just copy the link or directly go onto the browser itself, type it yourself, ICICI Bank, then do a net banking login or whatever you want to do. Don't click and then the link redirects to a specific website. Don't do that. Okay. It looks like it's not easy, but it is easy. If once you get scammed and once you get that eye opener that, okay, it can be very dangerous for me, from the next time you'll start doing it. Right. Then be cautious when you're opening documents, when attachments are being shared to you. Don't do it. If you know also, be cautious. Then loading apps. Everybody likes side loading apps, specifically my Android guys. Right? You like downloading Dream 11, I guess. Dream 11 is not available on Play Store, right? So what you'll do is you'll get it forwarded from your friends. You'll either download it from, say, the APK store, and you download it and you use it. Let's say that it is forwarded through WhatsApp, and you never know if the APK itself is malicious or it is infected. Like you saw it in case of SolarWinds. If a company like SolarWinds can be attacked, a company like Dream 11 or an APK which looks like Dream 11 can also be infected or can have a lot of malicious code into it, right? So you need to think of it. Yeah. So how secure is passwordless? Yes, it is pretty secure, because there is no need for you to remember the password until and unless your mobile is not misplaced and it is not in hand of a hacker. It's tough. And I don't think you would place the phone in someone's hand when the OTP comes in, right? So it is pretty secure. It is more secure as compared to the password logging. But there is nothing in this world which cannot be broken or which cannot be hacked. So as of now, I can comment on this that yes, this is secure. But let's see in future, if this can be broken, we'll have more advanced technologies which can protect it from that. Right, Kirtana? I hope that answers. Okay. Then finally, use apps from trusted sources only. So when I say trusted sources, it means Google App Store and Play Store. Adding to this, does that mean that using apps from Play Store and Google Store is secure? Right? The answer is no. About 80% or more than 80% of apps like beauty apps, your battery optimizer apps, right, are infected. Okay. Recently there was a report which told that it was infected by Joker malware, and it's pretty bad to think of that. Okay, so I have a question from Rahul sir, I guess. In web, usually HTTPS in web address and login green on address bar for official websites. Yeah. It's nowadays everywhere, right? It's everywhere. It's on about 80 to 90% of the websites. And as I've already told you, that it's not a good sign, or it's not one of the signs which you should consider if you want to check if the website is legitimate or not. Okay, it should not be only the one sign which you should look. You should also look for the URL. If the URL is really ICICI Bank or is it ICCI Bank, right? And you need to also see if the layout of the web page looks suspicious to you. If it looks suspicious, then don't, right? Wait. But most of the time you can do these analysis. You can do these are very good analysis which you can do. Three to four analysis you have to do on a website, and if it looks good to you, you can go forward, right? Finally, I've told you about apps should be from trusted sources. That doesn't mean that you should download every and any other app which you find on App Store and Play Store. So you have to be cautious. Okay, there are a lot of apps which are infected. You'll see a lot of malveritizing, like where you get a lot of ads, and those ads are further generating a lot of revenue. These are not typical malware, but yes, they are intruding your privacy and they are trying to fetch more information from your mobile phone. You never know what is happening, right? You should be always cautious when you're using your camera or you're using your file manager. If your file manager is asking for location permission, you need to think of it, right? Why does a file manager need my location permission? If it needs, and if you're allowing it, then all the best to you, right? So you can understand what will be the further consequences which you'll see. Yeah. So adding to this, what are some key takeaways which we can take from this session? What are some key takeaways, or what are some typical understanding which you should know? Whatever I've talked, say, from last 1 hour, I can say. So what are some key takeaways which you need to get? First is the threat and the threat actors are evolving. Okay, they have evolved a lot. They will be evolving. Same is the case with the security, right? Security will also evolve. Then automation and visibility. You need to automate things. If you're good with automation, all the best. If you're not good with automation, you can learn, right? But you should learn. Then visibility is the case, right? Where you can get good visibility, that is the product you need to go with, or that is the security solution you need to go with, or that is something which you should admire or which you should study about. Because if someone is giving you good amount of visibility, that is the product which is good for you. Then understanding the attack chain and bringing in context to an incident is very important. If I only can tell you that, okay, a file was downloaded, and if I can't tell you where was the file downloaded from and what is happening next to the file, it is of no use, right? So a context has to be built across the entire infrastructure, not only endpoint, but also I need to tell you that, okay, a file came in from your firewall and it was allowed by the file. And if it was not allowed by the firewall, I should see a block log on the file, right? So I have to know that. Then sophisticated and targeted attacks are on the rise. You have seen it in the supply chain attack or the SolarWinds supply chain attack, which was very devastating for the organizations there. Then we are also going to see more supply chain attacks. Everybody, I think, knows of CC Cleaner, right? So most of the laptops would have it now also. Earlier, I've seen a lot of laptops having CC Cleaner. CC Cleaner was also a part of a supply chain attack. Okay, it was also a software which was used to push an update which was infected, and it infected a lot of machines back in those days when CC Cleaner was in boom. But I don't think nowadays it is used, but still I've seen them a lot of laptops. If you have CC Cleaner, all the best to you, right? I don't think it is now infected, because if you talk about SolarWinds and if you talk about SolarWinds applications now, those will be the most secure applications in the world today. Why? Because every security company, even SolarWinds guys, must have done extensive research on what happened to the software, what are some bugs in the software, what all add-ons should be added, what all should be removed. So it is some of the most secured softwares now, if I talk about SolarWinds softwares. Then zero-day prevention is a must, because you don't know what vulnerabilities are there still. I don't know what vulnerabilities are there, and typically a Windows machine or any machine will typically have at least 20 softwares, which you may use or you may not use, right? But you will have it just in case you need it, right? So if you say about 20 softwares are there, and if at least each software will have one vulnerability, because you are not in a habit of updating the software, right? Most of the time I've seen people just keeping their Chrome open and they don't update, and they wait for your Windows to shut down itself and then come back online, and that's not good, right? So what you should do is, you should, if you are planning to get into security, you should also have that mindset of security in yourself, that okay, I need to first secure myself. I need to have those practices inculcated in the way I work and the way I move around in the digital environment, and then only you can preach about it, right? So that's very important, that you also bring in those security mindset in yourself, and then only you can plan of thinking of a future in cybersecurity. And I want to give you some insights into the cybersecurity world, that there are a lot of openings in this field, and if you have that passion, you can easily get into it. You have to just work hard. You have to find that specific goal, that okay, this is something which I like and this is something which I can work on, and if you're able to work on it, you'll surely get a job, right? Specifically in cybersecurity, yeah, people are needed who are good in their understanding, good in their foundations, good in their basics, and then you can fly high. That's something I would like to know, like everybody should know about it. Okay, then platform approach is needed, because all the security solutions should talk to each other. If they're not able to talk to each other, if they're working in silos approach, that's not a good thing, right? Then security at cloud scale is must. Why? Because I can't have a box or a server at my house or at my data center which is doing all the processing, because some of the other day the capacity or the hardware or the processing capability will be used, right? Once it is fully used, I have to add more hardware, and it's tough. So we need to have something, we have to bring in cloud here, and our cloud has to help it. Then finally, before I conclude the session, I would also like to know, or I would also like to tell here, that you should try to expose as less of personal information as you can on the internet, because you never know how it is being used. right? And if you want to know more on what kind of personal information is being exposed on the internet, you can go on a website called as Have I Been Pwned, or I'm not sure of how do you pronounce PWNED, but you can go there and you can find out if your email ID was used in any of the attacks, or was it exposed in any of the attacks, right? So you can search on Google, Have I Been Pwned, and you can get it there, right? So that's all for today's session from my side. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can scan this code and you can get connected. And now I would like to give the stage back to Gajendra sir. And I would also like to thank everybody who has been patient here and has been listening throughout the session. And I'll also add a thank you to the KLS GIT organizing team, the dean and the principal, who have been very supportive in organizing these kinds of events. And also, I see a lot of people whom I know, but yes, thanks a lot. So I'll just end my session here. I am, I guess, early. Is it?
Yeah, you are on time.
Okay, I'm on time.
Thank you, Ashish. It was a great, insightful talk. I hope everyone makes use of your suggestions. I liked your that slide, Ashish recommendations. That was a great slide.
Right, sir. Right.
Yeah. So I have unmuted. I have provided the facility to all the participants. If anyone wants to ask questions directly by unmuting themselves, they can unmute now and directly ask questions to Ashish.
I'll also like to add one story here just to bring in more awareness, right? So I have created this story which is very insightful, and I'll take one example of it. By the time, if anybody has some questions, you can unmute yourself, and I'll try to bring this story to everyone, right? So let's assume that I'll take an example of Deshpande sir here, right? Because he's in front of me now. So let's
Yeah, you
assume
can
that,
take.
yeah. So let's assume that I have Deshpande sir here, and I know him, right? Let's also assume that, so everything which I'll tell you next is a hypothetical situation, right? So let's assume that he has a son, right? And his son is currently working in or studying in GIT. Okay, so I'll set up the stage first, and then I'll bring in all of the security concepts here. So he's working in GIT, and he's very proud of studying in GIT. So what he usually likes to do is he'll try to usually go on Facebook and he'll post, I am in GIT, I'm going to Suresh Anna Cafe, I'm now going to Goa. Okay, he likes it a lot. So now what happens? I being the threat actor, or I being the hacker, I like this. Okay, I like this a lot because I like to go throughout the internet and I like to do stuff. I like to know what people are doing. Okay, so I get to know that Deshpande sir is a CEO of a very big company, and he has a kid of his who is working in, or who is studying in GIT. So I'll go on to Deshpande sir's LinkedIn profile. I'll see what he's doing, and usually what I see is, okay, he's a CEO of a company. He's doing this. He's doing this project, that project, all of that stuff. And also, when I go on to his Facebook profile, because he's very active on Facebook, let's assume, I also get to know that there are some photos of his with his family where he has tagged his son. Okay, I'm like, okay, great. Now I know whom his son is. I go to his son's profile on Facebook, and I get to know that, okay, his son is studying in GIT. That's great. And he's very active on Facebook. He likes to go to Goa. He likes to go to Dandeli. He likes to go to, let's say, where did I go? Okay, let's say Delta. Okay, so he likes to go there. And then, okay, I understood that he is KLS. He is a student of KLS GIT. Now, next, what I'll do is I'll go on KLS GIT's website, and I get to know that there is a event happening. There's a gathering happening. There's a annual day function happening, right? So that's great. And probably from his Facebook profile, from the way he is, I also get to know that, okay, he is into some events. He is a singer, he's a dancer, he's an anchor. Okay, something I get to know from the way he is. So what I'll do, so I have got these many informations, and it is more than enough for me to target you. So how do I target you? So what I'll do, I'll create an email, and I'll send it to Deshpande sir because I know his email ID because he is a CEO and a CEO's email ID is very easy to get on internet. So I'll send an email. I'll say, hi Deshpande sir, this is Aashish from the organizing committee of KLS GIT. Okay, and the email also looks very good. Say GGIIT. So he won't care of looking onto the email ID specifically, and he'll say okay. Then next what will happen is I'll say, hi, this is Aashish from KLS GIT, and I would like to share some photos of your child to you. Please click on this to download your son's photograph. Okay, so this is great. And he's like, okay, I have my kid's photograph here. Why would I stop myself? I'll click on that link. So he'll click on that link. And once he clicks on that link, I'll say, for one photo, you have to pay 1 rupee. Okay, and he being the CEO, he's like, मैं अपने बच्चे के लिए 1 रुपए क्या, मैं तो 100,000 भी दे दूंगा. Right, that's a typical mentality which we'll see. So what he'll do, he'll further be, I'll redirect him further to a credit card payment system where he has to put in his credit card details. So he'll be like, okay, I have to pay 10 rupees for 10 photos. I'll put in my credit card details, and the next page is like, oops, could not connect. Right, and sir will be like, okay, looks like internet ka problem hoga, must have been some problem, and it's fine. Right. The next day, what I see is I have his credit card details and all of the stuff which I have to get in. Right. So this is a typical attack which is very simplified, but if you try to connect the dots here, I hope everybody understands how an attack would happen. Right. So you have to be very, very careful when you're on internet, when you're sharing something, you are using Instagram, you're connecting with people, you're connecting with friends. You never know who is real, who is fake. Right. So be very cautious. Okay. So I have one question here from Rahul sir. Like Microsoft, the app says system update, but it's just pushing advertisements. Yes, it is. MI also does it a lot, right? MI is doing it a lot. So we can't do something here because Microsoft itself is pushing. So I would recommend that you should either change the phone or you can go with a normal phone which is not pushing updates like Moto. Or I won't be able to, like, I'm not good with recommending phones, but yeah, it depends on your budget. But yeah, you can go with not Micromax, you can go with Moto. I won't recommend OnePlus also because it is another Chinese company which is now whose now R&D is with Oppo. It's not good. So yeah, I would recommend Moto to you. So any other questions?
Ashish, Vijayan here.
Yes,
So,
Vijay. Yep.
I don't have any questions, but I would like to appreciate your effort that you took in presenting yourself, the knowledge that you have, and especially two things, as sir rightly mentioned. One thing on the your suggestion, right? So what is the Ashish way of suggestion that I liked very much, and of course story pertaining to social engineering attacks, what you told at last, right? That's really a great, because most of the attacks, if you take, though you have very skilled professionals in your organization, though you have all the protection in your organization, but still, because of a basic awareness of information security, right? A lot of attacks used to happen. You talk about anything, backdoor or whatever you call ransomware, anything. Right? So it's really an eye opener for people like all of us, and also I feel the pain of delivering such type of webinars or sessions, because I, being the trainer for a lot of cybersecurity sessions, I can still see you are like a reflection of my face, actually speaking, right? So I would like to appreciate the effort that you did, and all the organizers, I would like to appreciate the effort and time taken to deliver such type of session. That's all I want to share. Apart from that, I don't find anything that to say, because it's a very great initiative and great session. Thanks to Winter School, thanks to the respective institute and other organizers. Special thanks to you as well, Ashish. Good one. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vijayanji. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your great words.
Hi, Ashish, this is Vishal. So
Hi, Vishal. Yep.
Thanks for giving this a nice presentation on ETP, and this is really fruitful for us because I'm in this security background, and right now I'm working on these things. So I have a question regarding the Palo Alto wildfire that you are talking about.
Yes.
So is this product going to replace the SIM as well as the anti sandbox technology, both?
See, wildfire itself is a sandbox technology.
Okay.
Okay.
And yeah,
Uh-huh.
good. And you are saying like you will going to get the logs from the firewall from the devices. So like how it will going to tell you, because I already have a sandbox implemented in my organization, but still I'm trying to figure out, because usually those are integrated in my endpoints.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so whenever endpoint got hit by like any new program, any new file which is not having the reputation, those usually go to the sandbox to get the reputation and something like that. But in that
Right, right.
picture, I don't have any understanding like if that is coming from firewall, or if the user is working from home and how it is. So that I'm
Mhm.
trying to understand. Like uh, if we are like moving ahead, or if I try to pitch my management for this wildfire, are we going to replace a sim as well as sandbox, or like this will not going to replace the sim solution?
Okay, great question. So it would be like uh, something which is more towards the enterprise security which we do here, and would not be much relevant to the students who are here. But yes, that's a great question. So I'll just add to it. So what do we do here is we talk about a solution called as XDR. Okay, that's
Mm,
extended detection and response. So what do we do there is we not only we have a Cortex data lake, we have a data lake. Okay, on the like for example, if you talk about Splunk also has their data lake. Similarly,
yeah.
we have a data lake, and on the data lake we are sending all of the data from endpoints from my network firewalls. We can also integrate third-party firewalls like Fortinet and Checkpoint. We can do that. We can integrate all of the data. We can send it to the Cortex data lake. Once it is being sent to the data lake, we stitch the data there. And once the data is stitched, we get the understanding of what is happening on the data. Okay. So what I'll do is from the firewall, I send the data. From the endpoint, I send the data. From the cloud, I send the data. Once I get that understanding, I can create an alert on the dashboard and say that, okay, this specific alert came from the firewall. This is a network log. This is a firewall log. This is a endpoint log, right? So it can replace your SIM, but it can also coordinate with your SIM, because I know how tedious it is to work with the SIM, because you have to collect all of the logs, collection, then putting all of the alert. You have to create a lot of queries, and you have to run those queries. You have to do a lot of stitching on your own. That's tough.
Yeah,
Right? But
that's true.
yeah, but we with our Cortex XDR we can do that. You can do a quick Google search, or we can connect after the session also. Not a problem.
Okay. Because currently we are using SIM, we are using sandboxing technology, as well as we are having the CrowdStrike EDR that I'm deploying right now.
Yes.
So I really impressed with the capabilities of the EDR solution, because this is my first one. But when you come like when you're sharing about this wildfire, I felt like this is really a nice solution if we can replace a SIM solution, because less of the resources you need to manage, you can concentrate on your like the
Right.
research work. So that's
Right.
why.
Right. True. No, we can connect offline. Not a problem. We can connect on LinkedIn and we can continue our discussion. Not a
Okay,
problem.
that's fine. Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks.
sharing this
Thanks a lot.
insight.
Thanks, Vishal. Thank you. Okay, we have some other questions. Please, can you suggest some latest mid-level courses in cybersecurity? Yeah, there are a lot of cybersecurity courses which we can do. So you can connect with me and we can talk about it. So I need to check what mid-level. Mid-level can include your CEH, but it depends. Okay, it depends where you want to move. If you want to move with red teaming, you can go there. If you want to move with blue teaming, which is what I do. I do blue teaming, I do defending part. And you can also do that red teaming where you try to get into the companies and give them a report that, okay, these are some vulnerabilities and these are some loopholes in your company. You can also do that. It depends. Okay, it depends on that part there. Okay. The other question which I have is, will you suggest some tools for our better privacy and maintaining security, which can be helpful in maintaining security at home network? Okay. So what have I done in my home network? Okay, I'll give you one example of that. What I've done is, everybody knows that it is very easy to share a Wi-Fi network password, right? You scan the code and it's given to you. So what you can do, very simple, do MAC address filtering. Okay, find MAC address of your laptop, of your mobile phone, put it in the enable list of your router. Every router has it. Even the basic router which you can buy will have the MAC addressing part. You can put those MAC addresses there. And once you put the MAC addresses, only the MAC addresses which are there will be allowed to connect, right? No security needed, no breaking of brains is needed. Very simple for home networks. Okay, and other than that, try to go to your phone, check the permissions which you have given to your apps. That way you'll know which applications are using what. Right, nowadays there have been a lot of advancement in Android also, where you can get to know that, okay, if your camera is open, it will give a privacy alert. If your microphone is being used, it will give a privacy alert, right? But yeah, you can use that. And we have a question from Abhishek. You've said that downloading an APK and installing from unknown sources, does it still compromise if we delete the file or uninstall the file? Okay. So first question is, does uninstalling a file really has it uninstalled? That's one question which I would like to add here. So there has been a very unique case which was given out by Checkpoint. Okay, Checkpoint is also a security company. You can go out and search for IDF and Checkpoint. Search it and you'll get a good YouTube video where they have shown that the defense forces of Israel Defense Forces were targeted with an APK file, which would further redirect them to a which looked like a dating app, which was not. Okay, they installed the app, and when they uninstalled it, it did not really uninstall. Okay, it looked at it in uninstalled, but it did not. Right, so it is better to not install APKs from untrusted sources. Plus, if you want to really remove it, go into the file storage. Okay, go into the file storage and then check for the folders with their name. Sometimes the folders are hidden, and usually that is used by the threat actors to hide the files. But yeah, you can do a quick search and you can check. Okay, and for my name is Aashish Abraham, and you can find me on LinkedIn. But still, if you want to do that here, you can scan this code and we can connect. Not a problem. Or you can search Aashish Abraham. You'll find my name and we can connect. Yeah. So I hope those are the questions which we had. Anything anybody wants to add? I'm happy to answer. Anyone who would like to come in and put the questions forward.
Thank you, Ashish. It was very nice session. And thank you for accepting our invitation and delivering a very good talk. I think participants will be definitely, they will get the benefits out of your talk. And
Awesome.
one thing is that we are also trying to establish a center of excellence on cybersecurity at our institute.
Right, sir.
So that project has started. So we have made some team. So myself, Veena Desai madam from ENC, and two more faculties are there from other departments who are working in the field of cyber security. So we need your help there also.
Sure, sir. Sure.
So,
We'll be happy to help. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So I appeal.
great seeing KLS GIT moving towards a place where very less colleges or very less individuals are moving towards, where people are only into software development. And I would like to give this insight to everyone that software development is not the only place where you can excel. Okay, there are many more places where you can excel yourself into this IT industry. And if you're skilled, if you're passionate enough, you can find a job. It's not tough to find a job. Okay, but to excel and to learn every day is something which I would like to add. And Gajendra sir also knows about it. So we have been talking a lot on LinkedIn, and we have been sharing a lot of stuff there. So
Yeah. Correct. So one thing what I do is in classroom I announce, if you don't like coding, then you can move to cybersecurity.
Right.
That may not be 100% correct statement, but
yes, if you are passionate enough, and if you have the good foundation of networking, okay, anybody who is trying to get into cybersecurity without networking, don't get into it. Okay, please get your basics of what is IP address, get your basics of subnetting, supernetting, learn your CN. Okay, please if you're getting into cybersecurity, do your CN1 and CN2 very nicely. Okay, and do your networking lab. I had it in 7th sem, but if you have it now, do it.
so Vishal is saying that's the reason why.
Yes, Vishal. Yes, everybody who's in cyber knows that IP addressing is a must. and networking is a must. Yes.
Yeah, so during my initial days, I really had a great issue with these coding stuff. I'm not really good at .NET, Java. Even I know how I clear my data structure exams and all those. But I am glad this, like like when you are not able to approach to a one thing, you always try to go to and knock some other doors. And at that point of time, I started working on networking things like CCNA, subnetting, CIDS, supernetting, all those things. And from there, now I am in cybersecurity. So if you felt like because during my initial days, where people were like, when I say I'm a network engineer, people say, what is okay? He used to do like work with on modem and all those things.
Hmm.
But now at least they will able to understand what exactly I am doing.
Right. True. That's true. That's true with me also. I also did a lot of hands-on with switches and routers and uh, things which are very important before you get into cybersecurity. But yes, get your basics strong. If your basics are good, you can move ahead anywhere.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.